Hello, everyone. I'm Trent Luce. Welcome to Rural Routes, the program where we gather every day at this time and we discuss the issues between rural and urban America. I got out of Penn State University yesterday, got done with the beef production class just in time to get to the airport. This morning, I'm speaking in Kearney, Nebraska at the Alfalfa Marketing, or the Alfalfa Expo, Nebraska Alfalfa Expo, getting it right, Don Edie. And I didn't have time to do Rural Route at the normal time of day, so I had no idea what I was going to do. Arrived in Dallas-Fort Worth on my last leg home, sat down at a restaurant to eat a ribeye, which was actually really good. Jeff, did you have a ribeye?
No, we kind of pretty basic. We had chips and guacamole.
You drank your supper, didn't you? Yeah, so this happened last night. Yeah. How was your Shinerbach? Very nutritious?
It was.
Mine too. So anyway, these three cowboys are sitting across from me. We begin having a discussion, and Don Edie, I think the problem of me not knowing how to get my radio show just finished. You are on your way home to Calgary, Alberta. I'm assuming you're going to take the lead on this, or what are you going to do with your three amigos?
Yeah, that's exactly it, Trent.
You're going to get a little closer, Don.
Yeah, that's exactly it. We're heading back home, and for me, it's been a wonderful ride to go down there with a good horse and get it shown in a world competition and be with my buddies from Canada. We were down there. We're kind of a funny bunch when we go down there. We're kind of like Team Canada. We all root for each other, and we have a good time. And we didn't leave any stones unturned.
And we better let people know that you weren't actually at a rodeo. You were at Cal Reining Horse Competition?
Yeah, we're at the National Rein Cow Horse World Show, which is a show that brings all the regions of the U.S. together. And we are all riding with qualifications from the Canadian region of the NRCHA.
So that means that you have to qualify in order to attend. You can't just be any yo-ho with the horse and show up.
Yeah, exactly. And, we are kind of new to the NRCHA, so for us to qualify our horses isn't as difficult as, say, somebody riding out of Texas. But we're getting enough people wanting to do it that it's starting to get real competitive just to get out of Canada.
Robbie, do those guys make fun of you when your horses come down here with hair? Because those Texas horses don't get any hair.
Well, I had one guy walk across and looked at the stall and said, that hair in that horse, she looks a little fuzzy to me there. I said, well, it is because we're from Canada, but, they actually really respect us and treat us pretty good and find us we're from Canada. And we flew the flag all week from Canada. We're kind of like Team Canada here. Don was the leader on the Team Canada. And so, yeah, we've had a great time. And like I said, the horse is a little more slicked out now.
And so how did you do ultimately, Don?
Well, I think the real I think it was 3 years ago that we won the first Canadian championship, or the first NRCHA championship that had gone outside the U.S. This year was the first time that we actually had one of our members win the world, and one of our other girls was reserve champion in the same class. So that we had the Canadian flag out there for the pictures, and it was pretty awesome to have that title go back to Canada and also have the girl that rides in competition up there win the reserve.
Jeff, I think what we should do, Jeff Hoare to my left, Don Edie's in center field, and Robbie Mackay is in right field for me. But I think what we should do is go back to ground zero and assume that my listening audience knows nothing about the National Reining Cow Horse Association, explain the association, and explain the fundamentals of the competition.
Well, the NRCHA stands for the National Rein Cow Horse Association. It was founded, I'm going to say maybe 50 years ago, but it was set up to preserve the California rein cow horse traditions, the vaquero methods of horsemanship. And so what we have down here is we had a derby that consists of the herd work, the rein work, and the fence work. But then also once the derby was done, we carried into hackamore classes, two rein classes, and full bridle classes. So it's set to promote the vaquero style of horsemanship that came across. It started in North Africa, went to Spain, came over to Central America. Came up through Mexico, Texas, and then went up through California and up into Canada.
And in the United States, I know that we have some in the center part of the country, and I've got some neighbors at Arthur, Nebraska that compete. but it really seems to continue to be a Texas, California-driven sport.
Yeah, I think so. I think training influences vary from regions within North America, but I think what happens is I think it's dominated just by the sheer numbers that there are a lot more horses in Texas and California, or that seems to be where a lot of the horses are. I mean, right or wrong, but that's just kind of how the industry is set up, and that's kind of where there's more horses, there's more trainers, and then that's what we've come together to show these horses.
Even in the strictly the cutting horse world, it seems as though those horses, Robbie, that don't have a fuzzy hair coat participate a little more often. And I got great friends in North Dakota that do cutting events as well, but Texas tends to drive all of that. And let's face it, the climate's a little better to go out and ride a horse and do these things in January in Texas than it is in Alberta or Nebraska.
Yeah, it sure does. I mean, we come down and they're haired up, and I mean, it's been a pretty good fall for us. I mean, it's been above average, and it's been lucky that way. But I mean, the week before we came down, it was 35 below Celsius for a week, and I mean, we didn't get anything done. I mean, it was just too cold to get anything done. So, ponies were a little shaggy when they came down, and shaggy and fresh, but oh well, we did good.
Don, how much time do you put in a horse before you compete in competition?
Well, Trent, I'm a breeder, so I don't compete myself. We have our horses are in training, and we always want to have a horse that's coming through a 3-year-old class as a snaffle bidder, and if it's good enough to bring to Texas, we're going to bring it down. But I'm going to tell you something. You got to come here with a horse that's pretty awesome, because the best are the best. We have a boy in our area, right in Longview, Alberta, that's been at they have another class after the World Show called the World's Greatest Horseman, and that brings together the best cow horse guys and the best cow horses in America. And our John Swales is a guy that's real good friends of ours, has trained for us, and he's qualified the last 4 years in a row to make the top 10 in that show. And that's a real tribute, because he's been there 4 times in 4 years, and he's been on 3 different horses. So he's just not coming with one horse. He makes them, and he can compete on that world scale. So as a breeder, my thrill is to be able to have a Canadian breeding program that gets recognition and gets respect from the cow horse industry, going up against the best horses in the United States. That's not.
And you were sharing with me before we began that I'm very familiar with the pride in Canada and the beef industry. Obviously know about the challenges you've had in the past 10 years in the beef industry, but you shared with me that there's much more nationalism, if I can use that word, patriotism about horses in the United States than you sense nationwide in Canada. Kind of explain that to me.
Well, I think the cattle people up there, they take pride in their Canadian cattle, and the ownership of horses is a totally different story. So the ownership is fractionalized, so that there's a lot of people that have the feeling that the real good breeding stallions are in the U.S. and the real good mares are down there. So a lot of our people that are buying a horse will come down to Texas, or they'll go to California, and they'll buy a horse down there. So as a Canadian breeder, I think our challenge is to show our own population that we have good horses up there too.
So do you stand studs, or do you artificially inseminate?
Well, basically our program is pretty ranchy, so the stud covers the mare. We don't do the ship semen thing, but again, we don't have any call to ship semen anywhere. That's where it happens mainly with the American stallions, with the semen being shipped up to Canada.
Robbie, I got 45 seconds here in this segment. How do you fit into this picture, by the way?
Oh, this year is first year I qualified for the non-pro two-rein bridle horse, and first world show for me, and end up in 8th overall. And so I was very happy with that. I learned a lot. See some great riders, some fantastic horses, and met some great people down here. All a big family, and all know we have to do this year to go back and work harder and see if we can do better next year.